Mm. Hi, Yvonne.
Hello. Hello,
How's it
Evie.
going?
Good afternoon to you. How are you?
Good afternoon, everyone. And like spring. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
who wants to be
Well,
productive in spring?
we're having a mini heat wave this week. It's just like 26 degrees here in spring, which is like bonkers, right? So
Ooh.
loving that. I know that means nothing to you where you are, because that's like probably your winter. But anyway, it's good here. We're kind of lapping it up. But this week, productivity. How do we be? And it's really, isn't it difficult to be productive when it's really hot? All I'm thinking about is like, what reason have I got to be outside, going in, having a really long walk with my water bottle and a book and just finding a tree to plant myself under? Seriously. So as much as I will probably find some time for that, today is not that today.
Well, the thing is that, we always try to find any excuse that why we're not as productive as we would like. I mean, I definitely do that. And like, sometimes
Yeah.
you have every good intention, and then the day unravels, and you're like, oh, where did the time go?
Yes.
Then
Yes. Where did the day go?
the
Right.
question is it the time or
Yeah.
something else?
And there we have it. That's what we have. And I always find it's really interesting, isn't it? Because whenever, when I've had conversations with people about productivity, they are always, it's always time focused. Well, there's only so many hours in the day, and and they've got family, and so all this mapping out of the hours of the day, and that's that's the framework from which they decide what productivity looks like. So I've got loads to do and I've got this much time. How do I fit all of this into that? And actually there's a part that comes before we even start deciding what we're squeezing in potentially into that time. And of course that's kind of what we want to talk a bit about today, right?
Sure. I mean, I think that it is a nice take to productivity, and also, like, a different perspective. So hopefully, people out there will come and give us their take on it.
Yeah.
Because I completely believe, like, checking things out from different perspectives when things don't work out, there must be a way. Okay. So, and when it comes to productivity, I suppose for a chronic procrastinator myself, I have looked from various things, and like, ways how can I get more productive,
Yeah.
and what does that mean, really?
Yes, indeed. And interestingly enough, so the kind of perspective that we're going to look at today is really around energy. And when we were discussing it earlier ourselves, it reminded me that I actually created a course about 8 years ago, and it was exactly on this, and it was exactly coming from this perspective, which was the perspective of energy. What have you got in your tank to work with? Because regardless of how many hours you have in your day or don't have in your day, if you haven't got the energy to do the stuff that needs to get done, it doesn't matter whether you've got 1 hour
Exactly.
or 10. It's irrelevant. So actually the grass, for me, like the grassroots of productivity is, what have I got? What have I got to put into this day? Where are my energy levels? And if they're low, what do I need to do to elevate them? And if they're high, what's the most important thing for me to get done? And that's pretty much how I work. If I'm feeling low energy, How do I need to replenish myself so that I can up that energy level so I can get things done? And if I'm really high energy, I'm like, right, what's that thing that I perhaps have been dancing around or putting off, or I need that needs a lot of energy? Now's the time for me to do it because I've got like a full or overflowing tank. And I think that takes me anyway completely away from thinking about hours in the day, how much time have I got? Because if I'm full of energy and something needs to be done, I just make it happen. I will get it done, and I won't be watching the clock. I'll just make sure that it gets done because I know that I am physically, mentally, and emotionally able and ready to do so. What about you, Evie?
Yeah, I think that is the key thing. It's like it's not about watching the clock, because also watching the clock breeds anxiety, and when you get anxious, automatically your energy levels for you like predetermine that you're not going to have enough time to do all the things you wanted to do. So, what's the point? Never mind, nothing gets done. Also, we have to be prepared for things that do happen. I mean, you can wake up with a very good intention of completing certain things, and something else comes your way, and they don't get completed. So you need also compassion when it comes to things that need to be done. So that is another aspect that we never really introduced. Productivity usually is like a very rigid type of thing, like sort of anything that is productive is almost identical to business, to like doing things, uh, getting things done. I don't know what
Yes.
how like, but it's not really part of life. You don't necessarily allow it to
Yeah.
be part of life. I think, I don't know, I might have the wrong idea right now, but
No.
the whole point is that we do attach it to the things that have to do with business mostly, I think. um, so, but life is something that happens
Yes.
always, and
Yes.
nothing is completely, even if you live completely by yourself or you don't have any other obligations, something might happen. I don't know, like stumble and hurt your leg, and you cannot do the things you wanted to do. So what happens then? So there are other things that you need to introduce to, like, to yourself, for when you are being productive. And maybe I'm just waffling about. I'm like, but
No, I totally hear
you know
you.
what I'm getting at, right?
I hear you
So
because
hopefully
I can
our
remember
viewers do too.
we used to do a lot of productivity around the Stephen Covey matrix, which was all about, where are you wasting time? Where are things that are urgent but they're not important? The important and that needed now, and the things that are important and urgent, which are the things you must do now. And all of these frameworks are great. They say, I'm not saying that they don't serve a purpose, they serve a purpose. But you're quite right. Quite often when people looked at that, even as a framework, the only things that they were using it for was for work. They weren't thinking about, well, what's important for me at home, what's important for me in social circles. None of that got put into this framework. It was just all work related. And actually, productivity, our lives are much more than work. And if they're not,
Correct.
we need to have a little range check on that, because that's another whole story and another whole conversation. So absolutely, so you're so right. If that's what I'm hearing, then I would absolutely agree with that.
Yes.
That there's, life holistic is not just about work, and that's why I go back to energy. What do I need to get done today? Whether that's stuff with my family, whether that's stuff with work, whether that's stuff in my community, whatever. And how do I need to power myself up to ensure that those things get done? Even if I don't get everything done, what I get done, I get done. And if I need to carry stuff over, whatever that looks like. But it begins with how we feel. If we are not mentally, emotionally, and physically present and able, that list will forever be staring us in the face and will forever look difficult. And where do I start? And so already we're trapped in the thinking process of stuff, that the chances of getting anything done kind of goes out the window. We cannot think our way out of everything, right? Not everything is to be thought out of. Sometimes it's about paying attention to self and understanding state. What state am I in? I will never try and do something meaningful and chunky if I am feeling out of sorts, if I'm feeling really frustrated, if I'm feeling really tired, because I know, hand on heart, this will be a very poor effort. Right? It will be a poor effort because I'm out of sync. So this ability for us to understand, if I want to be, even if I know that I'm somebody who thrives, I'm going to say thrives under pressure, but I kind of like that stimulation of like having lots of stuff coming at me. I also need to understand that my tank needs to be full for me to be able to do that stuff. And it needs to be really full, if not overflowing, for me to do them really well.
Yeah. That is it, isn't it? It's just a matter of understanding yourself, and when can you be productive and when not. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I am like, for me, the first part of the day is what, when I can do a lot of things, and when the thing is that when this is wasted, um I'm getting very frustrated. and, and then even the next part of the day cannot be as productive as it could have been, because I'm carrying that frustration, and that is the issue. Is like, it's the energy. What you are saying,
Yeah.
because as much as we do the work and we understand like positive intelligence and how to get back to our bodies, and like minimize the frustration, um,
Yes.
it is like each one of us have specific times that we are most productive, or we're most energetic. Is for you morning or evening or afternoon?
Yeah. I'm definitely morning. I can carry through the day, like my energy levels. But I think the reason why I can stretch relatively easily through into the day, although I would say predominantly morning, is because I fire myself up in the morning. Like my first hour of every single day is about my energy
Yeah.
and making sure that I power up for the day ahead. If I didn't take that time, then morning probably would not be great, right? I would wake up, I would be tired. The first hour of the day. Now, I had this conversation with somebody because somebody said, yeah, but surely that takes energy to power up, like the things that you have to do. I'm like, absolutely. Everything takes energy. But here's the thing. It's minimal. It's minimal energy to power myself up so that I have what I need to go and do the things I need to do. If I didn't power up, I would be running on a flat battery. I would be running on nothing.
Right.
So now I am going into minus territory, right? I'm now in a negative state. I'm trying to concentrate. How well is that going to happen if I'm in a negative state? It's not. What's the quality of whatever it is that I'm trying to do going to be? Probably not great. So the knock-on effect of not taking that initial time to power up, like for me, and I know I've done it. I know I've had days where it's like, oh, I just have jumped into the day, and before I know it, I can literally feel, the downward spiral. I can feel it in my body, and it's like the afternoon comes, and oh my gosh, I have to have a rest. I have to take a break because I am literally on empty. That is not only is it not a nice feeling, it then brings the saboteurs so beautifully into play because that now comes the attack. Knew you couldn't do it, knew you couldn't sustain it. Look at you trying to do everything. You can't do everything. You start getting all this, and then you start avoiding. As one of mine is an avoider, you then start avoiding looking at things, because actually if I look at them I feel guilt and shame because I haven't done them, so I just don't look. So if they're over there and I don't look, so now you have another set of stuff that is depleting your energy. At what point, getting back on track when you've got all of that going on is like another level, right? So, and I think this is important that we realize that the saboteurs drain us.
That's
They
it. They are
don't
energy
keep our
drainers.
eye off the ball. They drain us. And so all of that energy that I could be using positively has gone out the window, because
Yeah.
I put something off. I didn't set myself up for my day. And now suddenly, right, I've got all these voices telling me I'm unworthy. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Wow. And how much does that drain? So for me, and then people wonder why I'm a self-care advocate. Well, this is why, because actually, without that powering up of self, without that awareness of what you need, how are you going to go and do all the brilliant and also the very small things that you want and need to get done every day? What about you, Effie?
No, yeah. I mean, as a, like, I spoke about frustration, but this is what frustration really, is. It's like saboteurs manifested, isn't it? It's like you're like, okay, I know what I could have done. I haven't done it. Let's beat myself up and see what results I'm going to get. No results. What you end up getting is a bit more of the same, and it becomes like a vicious cycle, and that's what this is. But I found, as you said, even taking a break, um, actually that works wonders,
Yes.
because nothing is like a matter of life and death, whether it's going to be done this hour or the next at the end of the day. So it is important to take that time, that break,
Yeah.
that like honor yourself. And I know you are talking about wellness, and I think wellness plays a big part in this. It's not like, as we said, productivity. When you hear the word productivity, you think work, but when it comes to actually you really being productive, it means you looking after yourself and allowing for anything that comes to be like done or not, depending on where you stand with this, or where you are physically.
Yeah.
So I think that it is very easy to just, um, as you say, run on empty and keep doing things, because we're quite used to that, aren't we, sometimes, and that we completely deplete ourselves, and then there are a lot of issues that come with this, that like come through, like even psychosomatically, don't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stress. Where does that come from? That constant foot on the pedal, not knowing how or when to take the foot off the pedal. It's that constant, burnout, because you are in depletion and you do keep going and you burn out. Your body literally just says, it takes you out of the game, because you're not you are not honoring yourself. You are not, and this is not to make anyone feel bad about it, but this is to understand that our bodies are magnificent. There is so much they can do, and there is so much they can take. That doesn't mean to say that we should be taking them to breaking point constantly just to see what they're made of, because at some point they will just say enough. And I always say, if you don't learn when to take your foot off the pedal, your body will show you. It will do it for you. And the thing is, when you allow it to get to that state, you may need a lot of recovery time. You may need a lot of recovery time. So actually being compassionate and kind to yourself and making those moments throughout the day where you're constantly topping up your energy, you're constantly replenishing yourself. They may be like 2 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Nobody should be in a position where they say, I can't do it, I haven't got the time. That doesn't even make sense, because my question on the back of that is, so you've got time for burnout, because when burnout comes, you might be out of the game completely for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year. I know people who have had burnout and have gone completely, out of the game for a year. And even when at the end of the year, they've suddenly realized, I don't want this anymore. This is absolutely, I don't want to do this to myself anymore. This is not okay. So I'm just saying that we need to be far more energy focused and understand the impact of where our energy is and what we're putting it into, then we need to constantly be looking at, this to-do list and the amount of time we want to squeeze it into. And I think that's a little bit also about being kinder to yourself, and also disrupting those saboteur, those patterns that will come up and who will just drain more energy. Because the minute we start going down that, I'm frustrated, I'm really stressed, I'm so angry, and all of that is energy. It's all energy. It's all energy.
Absolutely. And there is a little trick as well you can do to become a little bit more productive. But it is about setting yourself up to win rather than to fail. And what does that mean? It means like don't like overestimate what you can do in a specific time, with the energy levels you have. Just do, like, set out to do one thing, set out to do two things, and that's that. And then if you complete those and you have plenty of time, and instead of going to Netflix saying, lovely, now I can do something completely whatever, like,
Yeah.
you can then move on to do something else that you didn't think you would complete in the day, and maybe that's going to give you that sense of accomplishment that will automatically replenish your energy. So it's like all
Yeah.
related.
Absolutely. And the minute we allow that, like the sage, the purposefulness of the sage to kick in, where when we get something done, instead of thinking, right, that's done, what's the next thing? We actually, oh, great, I got that done. That's one thing done. We take a moment to be aware of that. And, I'm not saying you need to go and dance around the room to celebrate it, but I'm just saying acknowledge that, great, that's done. Fantastic. I'm really pleased with that, before we move on to the next thing. Because I think sometimes that's the other part, is that in the pursuit of productivity, it's how much can I squash into the day, and not really taking those moments to notice what you've done. I mean, I literally sometimes have to, especially if I've got lots of little things to do, I purposefully write down each thing that I've done, so that I can acknowledge it at the end of the day. Well, I didn't get a big thing done, but what I did do was all these little things which needed to be done, and I've got them done today. I'm really pleased with that. And I think that also helps us to stay in, the sage state, and not allow the judge and all the other saboteurs to come in and tell you how awful you are, because actually you haven't done this and you haven't done that. As long as you haven't done all those small things because you're procrastinating about something else that needs to get done, right?
Absolutely, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But still, I love this. I love that, like, just being present with whatever you're doing, because when you are doing that and you acknowledge it, especially at the end of the day, that gives you also fuel to say, okay, I have done enough, and I'm going to be like following through tomorrow, and
Yes.
whatever. So it gives you that sense of like accomplishment, gives you that sense of, okay, now I can sort of relax and say that I have done what I set out to do, or more, or even if I did a bit less, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow is another day. But yeah, I love being present with whatever it is that you're doing, because also we forget about that, especially when you are like, let me get this out of the way and that out of the way and that out of the way, and it's constantly that I need to get stuff out of the way.
Yes, yes, which is all negative thinking, right? That's all
It
coming
is,
from
isn't it?
like
Yeah.
that fear-driven space of I just need to get it out of the way. What's the joy and the pleasure in that? There's no joy and pleasure in that. So, much better to be able to come at it from the cup of fullness and be able to acknowledge each of those things. And I know that there'll be some people that may listen to this and say, you don't know my work environment. We don't get time to breathe, much less, be thankful that we've got things done. I would say you need to have a conversation about your environment. You need to have a conversation about the culture in your business, because nobody should be working in that way. And I will put that out there. And for any of the companies that do run that way, feel free to contact me, because it's not okay. We're not here to drive people into the ground and to burn them out. That should never be what any company, much less any individual, is hoping to achieve, to accomplish. We know that when you look after your teams, when you help them to stay well, they are far more productive anyway. And this comes back to wellness, productivity. If you want productivity to go up in your business, then start looking after the people who are doing the work. Because if they are well looked after, if they feel heard, if they have space to breathe and to ensure that they're well, guess what? They'll do the work anyway. They'll get the work done. Having a team of people getting the work done who are in a state of resentment,
it's not going to happen. And it is quite interesting that, in this day and age, that there are quite a lot of tools out there with regards to wellness, to, supporting your team, supporting yourself. You hear so much more about burnout. I don't know if it is like because, like our antennas are up with regards to that, or if it is something that in the past was not discussed as much. But there is definitely a lot of discussion around burnout and how to avoid it nowadays.
Absolutely. Because people are expected, and there is an expectation in many industries for people to work really long, crazy hours. And I do remember reading a story, and it was actually on LinkedIn, of I think she was a lawyer, solicitor, anyway, something like that, under huge amount of pressure to get something done. It was a particular contract that needed to get done and needed to be signed off. And she was pulling like 16-hour day. I mean, 16-hour days to stay in focus. I mean, seriously, people,
No,
really, I mean, even when you say it out loud, you're like, come on, get with the program, right? And sadly, that lent she took her life. So this is what I'm saying, is that this is not stuff to be taken lightly. This can lead people to some really dark places. So our individual ability to understand, I know what I need right now, and if I don't get what I need, I'm not going to be able to deliver on this. I must have what I need. And then the workplace responsibility is, are my team getting the support and the encouragement they need to stay well, so that they can turn up and do the work that is required of them? And how do we manage that streamlining? Because a lot of businesses have streamlined, so people are doing two people's work, and this is why there's this kind of overload of work. How do we actually manage this? How do we make it effective? Because you know what, I think we also live in a time where people are sick to death of being sick. They are sick to death of burnout. They're sick to death of experiencing mental health issues and not having support with it. They're sick to death of, having to take a month off because they're so run down and so out of it. That's not what people want for their lives anymore. So there has to be a better way. And I am certain that there are companies out there who have got this down pat. And I believe that those businesses need to come front and center and really show and tell how they're making it work. And the others need to take note.
No, it is an issue that needs to be addressed. Especially because we cannot afford to have so much burnout. And as you said, burnout is not just like, okay, I'll stop for a month or a year or whatever, and I'm going to recover. Sometimes you don't recover, and that is the problem with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is like yes, it is a big discussion. We don't want to get into that like in detail, but it at the back of this, I mean, let's not talk about burnout. Let's talk about wellness, about looking after yourself, about taking the steps. And even if you do work in a company that they don't allow or they don't understand this, and I don't think nowadays, especially in the Western world, there are many of those. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm
I'll
wrong.
just put the question mark up out there.
Okay. Maybe it's the wishful thinking. But I mean, it is down to the individual also. It is
Yeah.
down to your own responsibility for yourself, for you being well, for you managing um, what you can, and don't overburden yourself.
Yeah.
Because it is very easy to do. It is very easy to just overburden yourself. I mean, we do it all the time, and I think women are more guilty on this than men in many respects. I don't know.
And again,
What do you
why?
think?
When we look at the saboteurs and we look at some of the most common saboteurs that show up for women, the people pleasing, the avoider. So I'm avoiding confrontation. I'm avoiding the conversations that will take me. I'm not going to do those. People please. I'm just going to say yes to everything I'm going to say. So sometimes it's those saboteurs that are more common in women. I'm not going to. I don't know that for a fact because I haven't got any science behind that. But I'm talking about certainly women that I've worked with and that I've helped, that I see the saboteurs are generally quite similar, and they are the ones that almost, if you want to be valued, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and you need to do it every day, and you need to spend this much time. So there's this constant drive, and of course, again, that takes them to that place where I have to put my health on the back burner because I need to get all this stuff done. And put my health on the back burner, and oh no, but then I also need to create a little bit of space because of family and blah blah blah. So they just get pushed further and further away from self, and that for me is a massive problem when we become so disjointed from ourselves, from our bodies. We it's almost a little bit like numbing. But it's
Yeah.
not numb because we usually end up in physical pain, and physical pain is the body holding this stuff that's not having an opportunity to get out. So there's so much to this. But if we can think about our ability to be productive in terms of what have I got in my cup, what is there, how resourced am I for the work ahead, and if there's not enough resourcing, what is it that I can do and I need to do to top that up, and how do I do that? And this is why I love positive intelligence, because this teaches, it's shown us how to teach people, how to show people, how to help people resource themselves in bite-sized ways, throughout a day, and having access to these mini activities, these mini things that you do that just help to bring you back to the present, in this state, okay, and go again. I mean, it's wonderful. I've had clients say it's magic and I don't even understand how it works. I'm like, well, then don't worry about how it works. If it's working, just do it.
Yeah, exactly. Then the how is not always that important. But yeah, that is it. And like the being resourced, I think, is one of the most important things you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
And we can all be resourced.
Yes,
It's just a matter of like how we go about our lives. And
indeed.
as you said, Yvonne, things can be so different with just like 1 or 2 minutes every so often of some activities that can
Indeed.
be done no matter where you are. even if
Exactly.
you are in a very busy environment at work. So yeah.
Indeed. Indeed. And I think the other beautiful part of that is that you can go home, you can continue with these little miniature practices, and you know what? You can bring your kids in on it. It doesn't even have to be something that you're just doing for you. It can be something you bring your family into. Everyone can benefit, right? That ultimately is the beauty of it. But being resourced so that you can be productive, for me, is the thing to focus on. Am I resourced for what needs to be done, as opposed to, are there enough hours in the day? We've all got the same hours in the day. We don't all have the same responsibilities, let me be clear. So, of course, how we utilize the day can look very different. But however we're going to use the day, we need to be resourced for it. And that requires us to put energy in so that we have energy to put out.
Correct. That's exactly what it is. I think you've said it all. Yeah.
Well, on that note, we're going to leave that there. We're going to leave that there. But if you're listening to this video, if at any point you're like, oh, I need that. I need whatever this magic potion is they keep on talking about, this positive intelligence. I need to have some tools, some resources to help me get through, or to help me manage, to help me live more fully, whilst fulfilling my commitments. Then, connect with us, find out about Permission to Thrive, and find out if this community is the right one for you. What I can guarantee is that you will have the opportunity to be far more resourced, so that you can be more productive in your whole life, not just your work life. And that in and of itself, for me, is gold.
Absolutely. 100%. We've been there, we've seen it, we're doing it.
Indeed. Living the story, living the dream. Fantastic. Okay. Well, that's us
Thank
for
you,
this week.
Yvonne.
Thank you,
Thank
Evie.
you,
As
everyone.
always, thank you to everyone and anyone who's tuned in, and for anyone who watches it on replay. Always open to questions. Post them beneath the video, or reach out to us, DM, whatever. Use our QR codes. We're always open for a chat. Well, not always. Let me just take that back. No, not 24/7, no. But you know what I mean. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye, Yvonne.